thanks again for tuning into Sin's Workshop Podcast. Hope you're all having a great day. So today we're going to be talking about These Feathered Flames by Alexandra Overy. And this is a retelling of the Russian folktale, The Firebird. Now, you don't have to be familiar with the Russian folktale in order to appreciate this novel. In fact, I kind of recommend don't looking it up. I looked it up when the cover reveal first went off, and I was a little confused by it. However, when I read this novel, I wasn't confused at all. I really do think the novel flows in a wonderful way. And I think the evolution of the story is well done. What I took away from this novel is the opening pages, the opening chapters. They are a little slow. It is a little hard to get into initially because the author is really doing she is focusing more on world building. Let me say that. She is focusing more on the world building of the novel, but that doesn't mean that doesn't make it bad. Doesn't make it a poor novel. I appreciated the world building. And I really did like this history in this world. I do like the history of this world, Tauren. I like the development of the Firebird. I like the history surrounding the Firebird and the magic surrounding it. So I really do think that the world building she does in the story, it is essential for understanding the entire novel. Otherwise, it's not really worth reading. So I'll say that, while I do think it's a little slow, it is a little hard to get into, I do like the progression of the story because once the tension starts to rise, the momentum starts to rise, and it becomes incredibly more engaging, and it really does become quite addicting to read. You don't want to put it down. The chapters, they are very short, they are very sweet, it goes back and forth between the sisters, sometimes within the same scene. One scene will be you can start the scene in one sister's perspective, and then the next chapter will sort of end the events. And I do like that. Does create a nice fluidity to it. It does keep the tension and the momentum of the story going, and it keeps it rising. And that's what I really liked about this novel. The overall evolution and progression of the story. I really do think it was thought out properly. I do think it was well developed, and I can honestly say that world building is essential. It does give the reader a really strong idea and some really strong connection to the land of Tauren. The reader gets to understand the history and the magic and how important it is. And as my favorite fairy tale villain Rumpelstiltskin always liked to say, magic always comes with a price, dearie. And it does in this novel, and I think it's great. If you haven't watched Once Upon a Time, it's really only worth watching for the evil queen and Rumpelstiltskin. Just want to say that on a side note. I thought that was well done. I do think this idea of magic coming with a price, I think it's very important because nothing is really free in this land. And what I also liked about this novel is in order to use magic in a lot of fantasy novels, you have to have it in your blood. Here, you don't have to. You can say a spell. You can pay what you think might be the price, so the Firebird won't come after you, and then that's it. However, if your lock of hair wasn't enough for the spell, the Firebird's going to come and get the actual price. So I do think that was really interesting, this idea of magic and all the factions and, the people who like the Firebird, people who respect the Firebird, and the vast majority of people who fear the Firebird. They do look at the Firebird as a monster. They think magic should be freely given, and to them, the Firebird is just, The Firebird is just like this monster in the night that you warn people, like, make sure you pay their price, or the Firebird's gonna come get you. You know, it's it really does present a lot of interesting tension to the story and the magic, because you are wondering, you know, as the fading, because there's this thing called the fading, you know, with magic kind of fading, and everyone thinks it's due to the Firebird becoming more powerful. It does have a lot of intrigue to it, and the Firebird, well, since one of the sisters is the Firebird, you get to understand her as a character, as a person, not just as a Firebird, and you understand why magic has this price and why she has to extract it. Otherwise, all hell will break loose, and that's exactly what happens in this novel. All hell is breaking loose because a powerful spell was cast, and she hasn't extracted the price yet. And a lot of people don't really see the connection, and they don't really respect the Firebird. They just think of her as a monster in the night and a nightmare. And that is where a lot of the interesting tension comes from with the Firebird. That she doesn't want to be this monster, and yet she understands her role to play in being the Firebird, because she sees that if the price isn't paid, hell is going to break loose, and so many more people will suffer. You know, the fate of the one versus the fate of the all kind of thing. Yeah, that's a Star Trek thing. I'm a nerd. I own it. So I do think that this is a really interesting novel because of how it deals with this idea of magic and it having a price to pay. And I like the tension surrounding that. As for the princess, the one who's not the Firebird, I have to say I did like her. I did. I thought she's a very complex character. She grew up in a world that's so different than her sister. You know, it's full of a lot of spying, a lot of mistrust, you know, royal court intrigue and espionage almost. So I thought that was really cool to see her grow and develop as a character, because she's lived so long as sort of her mother's chess piece, and now she has to be the chess player and move things in motion. But, you know, again, hell is breaking loose because her sister hasn't extracted the price yet. She can't really find that connection to the price. So there's a lot of upheaval in this novel. Like I said, it is a very high tension novel. I do appreciate high tension novels because the momentum keeps going up. And that's what happens in this novel. The momentum keeps rising and rising and rising. And when you get to those last two chapters, you're like, whoa, you just need to like take a moment to breathe it all in, to take in everything that has happened, because there are so many plot twists, there are so many revelations. It really does make the story worth reading. And there are things that happen I didn't see coming, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, wow, this author is really good. It wasn't predictable. I didn't see that coming. I like unpredictable novels. That's not to say that sometimes when a novel is predictable, it's bad. I just read a book where I was just like, knew it, super predictable. And yeah, I enjoyed that novel. I did. So sometimes predictability is okay, but I much prefer it when the novel keeps me at the edge of my seat and is unpredictable. I think it lends itself to engaging the reader even more and sucking them into the story, because you don't know what's going to happen next, and then you need to know what's going to happen next, and then you see what happens next, and you're just kind of blown away by it. So I really do think Alexandra did a really good job with her storytelling. I think she did an excellent job with her world building, because it is essential, but it also doesn't drag the story down. There's more history trickled into the story as it goes on, but it doesn't really slow down or disrupt the pacing of the story. It fits. It fits within the movement and momentum of the story. And I always enjoy that when that happens. Sometimes when authors trickle in history, for the most part, I think authors do a good job of making sure it doesn't bog down the pacing of their story. But then I've read other stories where they kind of unload too much history at one point, and you're just like lost, and the pacing just slows down drastically, and it just kind of really ruins the momentum of the story. You know, Alexandra doesn't do that with this story. She keeps the momentum and the fluidity going in order to keep the story engaging. And I do think these are characters that are worth engaging because they are thoughtful, they are complex, they have such a range of emotions to them, and the way they handle themselves is ultimately quite enjoyable and thought-provoking, ultimately. So this was These Feathered Flames by Alexandra Overy. I'm going to go ahead and give it 4 stars. Didn't quite blow me away, but it was a really good opening novel to a new series. So, once again, These Feathered Flames by Alexandra Overy, 4 stars. I recommend purchasing the book off of bookshop.org because a percentage of all proceeds do go to supporting local booksellers. Although I know for a lot of us money is tight, so check out the book from your local library. Libraries are a great resource for the community and definitely just deserve our support. And I hope you'll support me by liking my podcast and following me. I hope you'll have a great rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.